Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez. This is my workshop. Today's project is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to make a Machinist Jack. Now that I have the mill, I want to make a Machinist Jack as an accessory to go with that. So if I have any work pieces that are sticking out from the vise, I'm able to shore those up and provide support under those as I'm performing milling operations. The irony of it is I could make that on the lathe. So I could have had all these made up before, a Machinist Jack before I started getting the mill. But now that I have the mill, I'm thinking, eventually I'm going to need to support some material. Why not make a Machinist Jack? So most of today's work, if not all of it, is going to be on the lathe. So I haven't forgot about the lathe. I'm still using that machine as well. And I'm excited about this project. This is going to be a fun one. So the design that I'm using is inspiration from Dave M. It may end up being a direct copy. He has plans on his site. Like I said, very simple drawing and easy concept, and it will do the job. So there's not a lot of reason to modify it, but I am going to draw it up and see if there's anything I want to do differently and work with the materials that I have. These aren't going to be very large Machinist Jack, but I may change the measurements and dimensions a bit in order to work with my table and my vise. I want to make sure that it's going to fit under at its lowest, fit under my workpiece at its lowest, as well as fit, provide that support for anything that I need to go higher with. We'll draw it up and we'll get started on the project. We're going to do some quick measurements so we can find out our minimum and maximum height that we want to achieve. So the minimum on this particular vise that I would ever need to get underneath is going to be, I don't know how well you can see that, but that is 2 3/8. But I think just to be safe, I'm going to make the minimum 2 1/4. That will get under anything that I have resting on the lowest portion of my vise. So I'm going to write that down. 2 1/4 is going to be the minimum. And the maximum, I would never have anything mounted up this high. But let's call that our max height. That's going to be 3 3/4. So the max height of this, just so I've got enough thread engagement and whatnot, I'm going to call 4 inches. So I'd never need to shore anything up 4 inches tall, but I'm going to shoot for that. And it may be that the max height ends up being whatever it is based off of the nested thread bolts that I'm going to machine for this thing. But at any rate, that's what we're going for. Minimum of 2 1/4, sorry. Maximum of 4 inches. And if the maximum is lower than that, it'll be fine, because I'm never going to mount anything on top of my jaws unless it's squeezing it this way. So this is technically the maximum. That's 3 1/2. So it will be fine if I can make it 4. If it's 3 1/2, 3 and a little over 3 1/2, that's going to be fine as well. So let's put this stuff away and let's draw up sort of a design and get started. Alright, as I said, I'm going to take inspiration, if not a direct copy, from Dave M. He supplies those plans online. You can download those from his website. The concept's very small. This isn't going to be a very large Machinist Jack. This isn't a very big mill. And I don't need anything that can support something like a bottle jack. That's not what we're going for. This was from a previous video. This is 1-inch stock, and it's the idea is to machine a base out of a 1-inch piece, and then there will be 2 nested threaded bolts, so to speak, that will be the jack portion of it that can raise and lower to support your work pieces. The idea is going to be using 1 inch for the base, which is this stock that I have. this small piece here I'll use. I got some more over here, be a great project for that. And then the two jacking portions that will thread out to support the workpiece are going to be made using some 1/2 inch rod, and I've got that as well. So let's draw this up and I'll show you kind of what I'm going for. So there will be 3 pieces, 3 portions to this. You have the base. The base will be, you know, something like that. Draw that out. So this dimension here will be 1 inch, or roughly 1 inch. Then we have the height. I haven't determined yet. We'll figure that out here in a minute, because that's going to be based off of our minimum and maximum height. But then we will have, you know, a threaded hole in the jack here, and that will have a hole at the top, and that'll be a 1/2 inch thread, will be the first part of this rod. Then we will make our 1/2 inch. So I know this will be 500 thou. And then we'll have our threads. This will be also half inch. So it'll almost be a straight through bolt, but it's going to be 1/2 inch thread to go into the 1 inch piece. So we will drill through, and then this piece will screw into this piece so that we can have our first step. Then I'm going to attempt to drill a quarter, it won't be a 1/4 inch hole, but we're going to drill a second piece that goes in here. This will be smaller. The top will still be, I don't know, it'll be 475 thou, I don't know, 25 thou smaller than the first one. But the difference is going to be, the big difference is going to be, the shaft is going to be a 1/4. So if we go back to this one, this is also going to have a hole in the middle that's 1/4 thread, and I will drill down through there and thread, you know, use a tap on that one as well. So we'll have this one will be threaded, that will nest into this one, and then this one will nest into this one, and we'll end up with something that looks like this. There we go. There we go, something like that. So that's what we're going for. It'll end up being a nested jack. So it won't really be tall on its base, but when you extend these 2 portions here, we will end up with something that can go up to 3.5 to 4 inches. So that's the idea. Again, there's several of them out there, several different plans, several different ideas. This is something that I feel like I can achieve myself using the equipment that I have, and this is the design I'm going to go with. So what we're going to do, get over to the lathe, we're going to part this off, because I don't need this threaded portion here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it. So I'm going to part this off, And this will be the base of our Machinist Jack. So we'll get over to the lathe. I'm going to do some calculations to figure out just how tall I want the base, and that'll determine my threads as well, and then we'll keep going. Alright, I'm going to use my collet chuck for this. Let's grab, I need to disassemble this. It'll keep my aluminum cleaner as I'm working on the materials, so that's what I want to do. There we go. Depending on how these turn out, someday I might actually make some bigger ones, maybe out of steel. I don't know. We need our 1-inch collet. I'm gonna go clean out the nut. It's got a little bit of aluminum in there. Be right back. We're going to part that off right in there as close as I can get. Alright, first thing I want to do is part this piece off, and that's going to put us down to about 1.25 inches total height of the base. Reason for that is I want to save this top for that other piece. I might have a project for that in mind someday, but we got plenty of room on this piece to go all the way to the center. We're going to give that a shot. Let's just see how we're looking anyway. Pretty good there. How are we looking? A little bit high. Actually, I'm going to go with that. See if we can't part this piece off. We've got our clearance. There we go. There we go. Sometimes parting takes a while, but at any rate, we got that one parted off and dropped in the pan. There we go. So this was the top piece I kind of wanted to hang on to for some future project. This was a 72 tooth test that I did with threading. At any rate, we now have that part parted off, and it's time to, since it's already in here, I think the next step would be to drill a through hole and tap it for a 1/2 inch thread. So we'll bring you back when we have that set up. We've got our chuck over here. We want to put in our center bit because we're just to get our drill started. Give it a and I think pretty ready to go. And we're just going to drill all the way through because I don't need a solid base on this, and I'm trying to make this as least complicated as I can. Well, we got through it. Hopefully we'll do some measurements and make sure it's actually concentric. That's my only concern, is that it turned out okay, because that will matter for this part. We do need it to have, you know, fairly level and usable. Otherwise it could be way out of whack and not properly support your workpiece. Put a chamfer on that. That'll work. And now we're going to thread that with a half inch 20. Got that set up. I'm going to use some of this Chesterton 390 cutting oil. Change this out. We are ready to go. Maybe. I don't know how well this will work. So what I want to do is center this up, square it up as best I can using the tailstock. And then we will get that going. So this could be a little slow going, but I just want to make sure that we're squared up and getting it right. Get this cleaned up, and then we'll get ready for the next operation, which is going to be the first step bolt that will actually be the first quarter-inch step bolt, and then there will be a second one that will be nested inside that middle one. So we're going to get set up for that operation. And other than cleanup, there's our final base piece for the jack. Turned out pretty well. Got some cleanup to do in there, but there we go. There's the start of our piece. We've got both sides faced off, and we just need to clean up the outside, the OD. But yeah, it's time to make the next piece that will be the step, and then we'll make the third, and that'll be our little mini nested, I'm going to call it a nested machinist jack. So we're on our way. All right, as with all of my plans, everything's fluid and subject to change, and I decided to switch it up from the original intention or design. The secondary jack position I'm going to make out of 3/4 round stock aluminum instead of half and then half again and turn the heads down. And that way we'll get a stepped effect, and I think it'll be just fine. So we've got our inch collet in here now. We need to get that out of there. Worked out really well. Everything would go in and out and continue to turn concentrically. Quite pleased with this collet setup that I have. It's working great for this particular project so far. There's going to be a lot of montage and fast forwards and a lot of repeat footage. But yes, I'm not making one, I'm making 4. Granted, I don't have a problem. I did make these all a little shorter. I can go back and make them longer if I want, but I kind of thought it's going to be fine. I'm trying to toy around with the idea of what I want to do here. I think I'll probably order a 1/4-20 tap. The tap that I have simply isn't long enough. I can't get all the way through the mid pieces. So I think I can continue on without having the tap. I just won't be able to finish, you know, the final piece won't be able to thread all the way in. So I can always go back and finish tapping that once I get a longer tap. But this is a 1/4-20 bolt. I've just been testing it and things are working. seem to be working well. I don't have any 1/2-inch bolts, I guess. I was looking around, I can't find any. I'm sure I got one somewhere, but the next steps, I'm going to break this into a couple parts, unless the video footage is just not taking that long and not that interesting. But I've been out here the better part of a day. I'm ready to call it a day for today. I've done a lot of parting. Every one of these pieces I've been parting. I need to face these off. What I'm trying to do is just get my base pieces all completed, and then this final piece. So I switched it up. I'm not using 1/2-inch for the middle and top sections. I'm using 3/4 inch, and then I'll use 1/2-inch for the top. So I'm trying to slow down. I want to make sure I get this final piece correct. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bolt portion, I'm going to make it like this, if that makes sense. So I'm going to make the threaded portion. Well, I have two things to make. That's how I'm going to do this, though. I'll make the 1/4 inch. It should match this. Make it my final depth, and then I'll leave a 1/4 inch top for the final jack piece. These I will use the collet chuck, and I'll mount in the 1/4 inch top that I want to make, maybe an 1/8 inch, I'm not sure, probably make it a 1/4, and then I will turn this down to my die dimension, which won't be 1/2 inch, it'll be just shy of 1/2 inch, maybe 20 thou, maybe 40 thou thigh shy. I want to go back and recheck all that and make sure. It's been a while since I've threaded. I want to make sure I remember how to do that properly. And yeah, so these will thread into here, and then this final piece will thread into this top piece, and that'll be our little mini machinist jack. We'll be able to extend those up approximately that high, which is almost 4 inches. So 3.5 inches is what I think I'll end up with, max height. Something like that, which for a little mini machinist jack is going to be just fine. So that is where we're at. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to call that part 1, and then we'll move on and we'll do part 2 next weekend.